Hello, I am Dr. Noni Davis. I am coming to you from Sya Academy, representing a legacy institution that I inherited from my parents, um, the late William Edward Davis and my mother, Sylvia Davis. We all co founded Sya Academy, but I am now the current owner and sharing that legacy with family members, my daughter and my daughter in law, and other young women and and uh, and an elder as we move through this next year, this 30th anniversary year that we're coming upon. Um, Today, I wanted to take a moment to join the rest of the revolutionaries in celebrating Asada Shakur. Um, this was an amazing woman who, during the Black liberation movements that we have, the ones in the 1960s, because Black people have been fighting for liberation ever since we have been here. So let's not get that twisted. We have, lighten this up a little bit. We have been fighting for our liberation since we embarked on this journey in the 1400s with these Europeans, beginning with the Portuguese. Um, anyway, uh, that she is one of the ones in our more recent times. Mama Asada, she died on September 25th, 2025. And so I just want to honor this Queen Mother Warrior, um, who in her youth decided that she was going to do something for our community. And so this is her. And so I just want to give her a shout out to her, this book, and which I haven't. I'm beginning to read. I've had this for a long time on my shelf, but I've got so many books. But her story is so interesting, and just chapters that I've already read. I'm so impressed with her, and I recommend that everyone get this book, have this book on their shelf. So Asada Shakur was born in New York. I think it was Flatbush, on July 16th, 1947, which brings a lot of joy to my heart. I'm a Cancer woman, and so I understand this uh, need to serve me. I'm not saying nobody else does it, but especially with reading through her story about how she was very engaged in serving children as part of the uh, uh, Black Panther movement. Um, Her death, she's as an ancestor, transitioning to the ancestor realm, touched a lot of hearts of people in our liberation movement, and we are excited that she is in, you know, with the sorrow. We're also grateful that she has transitioned into this ancestral realm because we know how powerful she is and how what a powerful ancestor she will be for us, helping us to achieve our freedom. And so we have another warrior queen um, there for us. And I do not have my bell. Oh, I don't have my bell down here. I meant to bring it, but we just uh, take a moment to just give thanks for her. Um, so, Queen Mother Sada Shakur, like I said, was born in New York. Her birth name was Joanne Deborah Byron, and according to her autobiography, she was a fat, happy baby who learned to talk early. And she was very precocious, and she had her likes and her dislikes. And so when I was reading this, my daughter was born July 13th. I'm like, oh, maybe that's a similar personality for people born around that time. I was interested in how she described her life. She said that her grandparents, I think they were on her mother's side, who lived in Wilmington, North Carolina. So she had some historical connection to our state, North Carolina, down there on the coast. Um, but she recalls that they were, there was a bit of this conflict. They wanted her to hold her head up, be proud black person. Take no junk off of white Americans. You say yes, ma'am. You say yes, sir, to your African American elders, and but you don't have to do that with white people. So I was like, okay. And uh, she said, don't cross the street from them, look them in the eye, and never make them feel like they are better than you because no one is better than you. No one is better than you. And she said it was a routine, a daily routine of reiterating that you are equal. There's no one better than you. And so that was, she said, the empowering words that elevated her mind and made her realize, hey, she was literally indoctrinated to think that there was nobody better than her. Now, the black community, at the same time we were doing this, there were also these complexities of, skin color, of and classism. And so for her, it was classism in Wilmington. Um, I think I'm trying to remember what her grandmother called folks ghetto rats, or trying to think alley rats or alley cats or something like that. But she said, I'm trying to find that particular page, but she um, said that her grandmother did not want her. She was on that Booker T. Washington framework of, black people need to uh, let white people know that we're same as you because we can gain the same things as you. So she said they ascribed to this capitalist worldview of they were better than other black people because they went to school, they had money, they had privilege, they had houses, they lived in well-groomed communities, and they lived just as well or better than white communities. And so she was discouraged from hanging out with black children who did not fit into that particular class. And she said she hated that because she was like, why are we making differences between people who based on their uh, income levels or whatever? And so I thought that was really interesting because you could see that that was the groundwork that was being laid for her desire to become a community activist. And so she struggled with her grandmother. She struggled with she had this complex relationship with them. So on one hand, she appreciated very much how they told her to take pride in herself and pride in her community and pride in her blackness. Uh, at this conversely, let's mistreat all the poor black people and hold them in disdain, and they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and get themselves together. And so that was uh, objectionable to her. She said, I'm not going to participate in that. And so as a result, she became a difficult child to raise. Well, so anyway, so that was her struggle with them. What Now let's see this next session. So her child experiences formed her political worldview, and she believed in the black community, black humanity, and refused to embrace the cultural practice of class, which divides us through a Western Eurocentric value system. And so we know that all cultures have demonstrated this some semblance of classism, but conversely, there was is in African culture, we do know that they had the concepts of ma'at. You had of um, how to treat people, how to interact with people. Not stealing, plowing. I mean, tearing up plowed land, not engaging in dehumanizing people. You also have Ubuntu, which is in the southern region of Africa, where they believe because I am, we are, you are, I am, and we are community oriented. Also, when I read the Kudakan Fuga and the Hunter's Oath that were written One was written during the Empire of Mali, the Mali Empire in the 1200s. And the other one was written, I think, a little bit later. But both of these documents express how even poor people could not be mistreated, slaves could not be mistreated, that we had to make sure that we regarded folks' humanity. And so it was very different from a European worldview, which was, disparaging young people. I mean, poor people, and also, this inclination that they were it was okay for them to be tortured and mistreated. And we know that the slave trade, during the slave trade, there was this portrayal. And I'm not saying Africans were smart, because I mean perfect, because we know that slave trade, and in some instances, folks were there were Africans who participated, um, who fail for the game that, oh, we're going to build. I think with the Benin people was, we're going to build you an empire and expand your empire over, and and on the other side of the sea, so give us your people. And then there were numerous lies told, but then there are some people who say, oh, you want some slaves, okay, you can take them. But still, even at this root, a lot of Equiano, who wrote the book, he was a kidnapped prince who wrote his story, said that even still slaves had some humanity. You could get married into the family, you could own property, you could elevate and become the chief of your community. So it was not, there was some fluidness or flexibility, or some always a potential to rise above your status, and but because your humanity was still valued. So we do have those things, but that was not the way. That was not a American worldview. So Asada Shakur joined the Black Panther movement in 1970 in Harlem. I think it was Harlem, New York. And while a college student at City College, New York, and Borough of Manhattan Community College, so she was enrolled in school, and she didn't complete her degree, but she, just imagine, 1970, she was a college student, and she joined the Black Panther Party at the age of 23. At this time, the Black Panther Party was only about 6 years old, because I think they started in 1969, or just a few years old. And at that time, it was engaged in political action for the poor, the oppressed, and fought against racism and fascism. And so Mama Asada was assigned to a committee um, to help write a new constitution. And so I know about the Black Panther Party, and I knew about, several of their organizations, but it's always good to go back and revisit what you learned, because you're like, huh, the Black Panther Party um, had their own newspaper, and they published articles about, revolutions in Africa, the Caribbean, um, uh, political news in the United States. So they were already operating like in this African diaspora worldview, and both celebrating the community, exposing the injustices of the political system, and also you know showing, also celebrating some of the accomplishments of African Americans, and the freedom movements around the world. Um, she was also signed to a community. I mean, it's just they were a committee that wanted to rewrite a constitution, and this will be a constitution for poor people and oppressed people. And it was not just limited to African Americans. The Black Panther Party expanded broadened their worldview to include people who were around the community, which we saw demonstrated in Frank Fred Hammond's video. Um, they also, so they had a newspaper. They were trying to write a constitution, so that was some political engagement. Then they had a medical cadre. She was part of that. So it seemed like they were rotating her through different parts of the organization. The medical cadre was responsible for um, providing dental and health care to Black Panthers. And she also worked with young Black medical students to build a clinic, a health clinic for the community. And they also passed out TB tests. They passed out information about sickle cell anemia, and they tried to open up a school. They were working on doing a daycare school. I think they actually got it open, but there's a lot of political violence, and we already know, that everything the Black Panther members were constantly villainized as people who were trying to destroy community, but there was all this other stuff. And so, like I said, they had a newspaper, they had the new constitution they were trying to write. They had a medical school, medical services, a free clinic that they established, that they wanted to establish. They had a small school that they were trying to create. And I think, what was the other thing? They had the newspapers. Let me see what else they have. They had a free breakfast program, and there were 3 churches in Harlem that served breakfast, and they also had a clothing program. So I'm like, these people were villainized and criminalized, because if you were to ask your average white person, or even your average Black child, probably, they would tell you, oh yeah, the Black Panthers had guns, and they wore black leather jackets, and they had those black leather hats, and they were holding those guns, and they were out here anti-police, and they were. But they were also creating community programs. And even the Black Panther breakfast program was, later on adopted by Europeans. But she was in her in the book. She talks about having to be up at 4:30 a.m. to make it to these churches to prepare the food, and she had to learn how to cook and do all of that. And but they were all about serving the community. But for her, she eventually she found that the Black Panther Party had a lot of issues, and one of them was um, this response to, she said, the self-defense. She felt like, yes, we need to be in self-defense, but should we be provoking or making ourselves a victim to these entities? Because what was happening was that a government would come in and do raids. They would just bust in. The police would just bust into these places and start shooting and killing the Black Panthers. And yeah, they had guns, but it was for self-defense. And she just was concerned that the vision should have been to avoid police interaction and maybe focus more on their programs. But what could they do? It was a time that if they're attacking you and you're not even going out here doing anything to provoke white folks, what we have finally understood is you do not have to provoke. These people are going. These Zionist folks, these fascists, don't need provocation. They just need you to be Black and in a space where you believe that you have a right. And so that's what we're dealing with in this situation. So now she eventually joined the Black Liberation Army, and now this one was not the soft paw group. This was a group of people who were um, uh, violent, or were, well, they said, now this is, you got Wikipedia, you got all this stuff, but you got all these articles. If you ask AI, oh, there were all these terrible people, da 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 da. But Mama Asada shared that she just wanted to be with somebody else, so she joined the Black Liberation Army, and this organization formed in 1970. And they really, now they were about self-defense, but they were also underground. and they were participating in some nefarious stuff. But it was mostly for um, to gain money. They said that they were in bank robberies. I don't know. I'm still researching that. So this is what they're saying about them, that they were robbing banks, and I know for her escape to Cuba, they did rob them. They robbed somebody, or $105,000. But anyway, so they were robbing capitalist organizations, but they were also accused of murdering police officers. And because she was part of the Black Liberation Army, she got caught up in that. She said, she was shot, and which gave her, she overcame the fear of being shot because she was actually shot and said, okay, but I've been shot, so I'm no longer scared of that. But what they wanted, according to was the organization was formed in 1970, based on self-defense, armed self-defense. The plan was to create armed defense guards that would be organized within the confines of the law. So you have the Second Amendment. And when possible, become sporting rifle clubs affiliated with the National Rifle Association. So they're like, we're going to take this NRA and we're going to use it, and we're going to learn everything that they say, and we're going to create an organization that's in alignment with that. They would be defense and they would use defense as a safe for life, limb, and property in the ghetto communities. So the BLA was an underground organization, and it was formed in response to unsolicited attacks by the police. So during this era, Africans in America were demonstrating their freedom, and European supreme stupidity refused to accept our embrace of our beauty, our brilliance, our benevolence, and self-determination. So they created chaos and violently attacked our communities, and they accused the Black Panther Party of corruption, of violence, of theft, of murder without cause. And it was just a dangerous time to live in and for our people, because they were fighting against a 400-year narrative that we were supposed to be enslaved because we were supposed to be inferior. But however, our determination to fight the obvious falsehood was treated as violence. So how dare you say that you're intelligent? That's violence. How dare you think that you can own a business? That's violence. How dare you think you could build a community? That's violence. And so that was the European response of the fascist response to Africans just wanting to be free and left alone. And we are still in that space. After all, when a certain person was killed in a certain state with a less than, or about 2% population of African Americans, HBCUs that were 3,000 miles away were threatened, and eventually someone decided to walk on their campus to start a fight. Nothing to do with us. And yet we're being pulled in. So it's just the audacity of Black people loving themselves and wanting to do and improve their lives. And now we don't even want to be white. So, they have the whole problem with that. So Mama Sada was a member of the Black Liberation Army, and this organization was actively participating in bank robberies and other criminal activities from banks and other institutions, with the objective of using the money to support underground movements that fought against fascism. Now, in 1971, she was charged with bank robbery, but later acquitted in 1973. She was continuously criminalized by the police, and some officers explained that police created a mythos about her. They decided, they're like, oh, we're going to get this young Black woman. We're going to, just say that she's in charge. She's the head of the BLA, and we're going to accuse her and make her responsible for all of these crimes. And that's what they did. That was the whole point. And so what happened was that because she was an educated young, beautiful black woman, this caused her to have to go underground because she was criminalized, she was villainized, she was now the leader of an organization she was not the leader of. And we know people have a history of lying, so this is what they do. They just completely fabricate a story. It doesn't have to be true. It's just I thought it, and now it's there. Um, Eventually, on February 17th, 1972, she was also accused of ambushing and killing 4 police officers. And in over time, she became, she was eventually put on the FBI list, and her picture was in the post offices across the country. Most wanted criminals. In 1973, what escalated was a a state trooper pulled over Shakur and 2 other uh, young men on the New Jersey Turnpike, and the officers accused Shakur of killing the trooper, although there was no evidence to support it. They said she didn't have any gunpowder on her hands. Uh, in fact, she had 3 bullets on. She was shot 3 times. I think 2 in the arm and 1 in her shoulder or something like that. But she was the one shot, and she explains how poorly she was treated in the hospital. They were beating her, punching her wounds, putting burning stuff in her eyes, punching her, kicking her, I mean, these white men were outrageous. And it wasn't about whether she actually did it. They decided that she had done it. She had, before everything was over, she had 2 bank robbery charges, kidnapping, attempted murder, and 8 felonies because of the turnpike. She had 3 acquittals, uh, a hung jury, a change of venue, a mistrial, and only 1 conviction. And like I said, she was shot, beaten, abused, starved, and criminalized. But in 1979, she finally escaped prison because she was in prison from 73 to 79. And the BLA, Black Liberation Army, stole $105,000 and helped her to escape to Cuba. Helped her to escape, rather. And after about 3 years, I think it was 19, that was 1979. So in 1984, she received political asylum in Cuba. She got to Cuba and was given that political asylum by Castro. And because of that, we all know how Cuba is hated miserably, because they took her and gave her asylum. And they said every single president, including Obama, had a bounty on her head, and they continuously harassed this woman. And I think that I'm trying to think, what was it that she said at the end of her book? Um, um, let's see. I Let's see. I'm trying to think. Okay, so over the months that followed, I began to understand the kind of hell that the police and FBI had put my family through after I had escaped. The police had so persistently and brutally badgered my mother that she had a heart attack. What they had done to Evelyn was beyond belief. I understood why Evelyn had reacted to my call the way she did. At one time, Evelyn's office telephone had 10 intercepts on it. She and my mother had received phony notes in my handwriting. They had received telephone calls with my voice telling them to come to the spot and bring some money. They had found electric eyes and all kinds of other devices in and around their houses. And they had experienced strange break-ins where nothing of value was taken, but they had survived and grown stronger in the process. So it just shows that her family, her heart went out to her family, because America never left them alone. Never left them alone. And she escaped to Cuba, and her daughter was eventually able to join her there. And we just honor her, celebrate this amazing woman, this amazing cancer Black woman, for what she accomplished, and how she stood up and got free. She died free, and we give thanks for that, and pray that we too in America will be ready for what's coming down the line. and we will rise as well to like we always have, like we always have. Ashe.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
We are digital undivided. For over a decade, we've increased visibility and access for Latina and Black women founders. Women shaping the fields of healthcare, technology, wellness, finance, education, and beyond. We began with groundbreaking research through our Project Diane report, which shed light on the triumphs and disparities Latina and Black women founders face. We now offer several founder-centric programs, events through strategic partnerships, and a vibrant founder community. Digital Undivided not only champions an equitable entrepreneurial landscape, we provide women of color at various stages of running a business with the space to improvise and innovate. From big to the new C-suite, we are where Latinas and Black women convene. Women who innovate, women who build, women who break through. We are Digital Undivided, empowering women of color to transform entrepreneurship.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I know my mom.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I can play the drum.
I'm a St. Sya student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Sya student.